Hey there, you fierce badger peeps and all of you just savage people out there. Welcome back to the Gritty Glitter Badger podcast. I'm your host, Krista, and this is where we talk grit, glitter, all things epic and cool. And you know what? Your glutes don't give a damn about growing older. They just want to be as strong, as plump as possible. So this is your no BS fitness guide through the wild weave of strength and science. And also I sprinkle in lots of mindset to go with it. So today's deep dive, it feels like I've really been like breaking down body parts here, but I'm going to talk about thick thighs and why those powerhouse legs of yours are doing more than turning heads, right? They might just be your most life-saving asset. So if you've always hated your strong tree trunk legs, like I have very thick, powerful thighs, legs, well, be glad that you got them and be glad that you never missed a freaking leg day, because I'm going to dig into the research and break down so that you don't need brain freeze, right? I'm going to keep it simple. I'm going to keep it real, just like I always do. So, get your drink, get coffee, get your pre-workout, get your water, whatever it is. I'm going to get into this juicy topic, and I'm hoping by episode's end that you'll know why those thighs of steel are actually worth celebrating and not hating. So let's cruise on in to the topic of the day: thick thighs, legacy of longevity. So thigh size, right, and strength and lower death risk, it's not just about vanity. I want to kick things off with a little blast from the past. So a Danish study followed folks for about 12 and a half years, and they found that thicker thighs were linked to a notably lower risk of heart disease and premature death, even after accounting for BMI, waist size, exercise, smoking, menopause, cholesterol, you name it, right? Thighs around 62 centimeters, 24.4 inches seem to be the sweet spot, right? So go thicker, no extra gain, go thinner. Okay, you're at a higher risk, right? And shoes that, they you have life you have life-saving thighs. I'm like fumbling over my words. This lots of talking today. But those thick thighs, they're lifesavers, right? And this isn't just BS, right? Larger thigh circumference has shown up in multiple studies as an independent predictor of lower all-cause and cardiovascular mortality, even when you adjust, for general fat levels. And there's even more data from Japanese male studies showing that smaller thigh-hip ratios, so think slimmer thighs compared to hips, are tied to higher death risk, especially among folks with a lower BMI. So if your thighs are giving you that firm resistance, not just curves, it's potentially life insurance, right? Now, I want to talk about muscle equaling survival. This includes your legs. All right, let's break this down in badger-friendly terms, if you will. Muscles aren't just about looking good on IG or, flexing on TikTok or the gym mirror. Well, look, I love a good flex, right? Or just, filling out jeans. If you can find the right athletic jeans that fit your legs, because that's something that I still struggle with. God bless a pair of sweatpants and stretchy pants. Just saying. They're literally your built-in life insurance policy, right? And a big picture study, a meta-analysis, which is basically, it's the Avengers team up, if you will, of research. It looked at almost 1.9 million people, and it found something crazy, honestly. That those with higher muscular strength, like strong legs measured by knee extension, had a 14% lower risk of dying from anything compared to the weaker crowd. And here's a kicker: hand grip strength, that was linked to a whopping 31% drop in death risk. Your grip strength. I mean, when I was reading through the data, I was freaking floored. Like, I knew that grip strength was a predictor, but 31% drop in death risk, that floored me, right? And, yeah, your handshake, think about that. The limp noodle, right? That could be a predictor of how long you stick around. So you shake somebody's hand, fucking shake their hand. Let them know, yeah, 31% drop in death risk because I got the hand grip shake, right? The strength. Anyway, another long-term cohort study focusing on older adults found that folks with a higher muscle mass index, think BMI, but only counting muscle, had about a 20% lower risk of dying from any cause, right? And that's not a small number. So here's the takeaway for this portion: is powerful thighs aren't just for show. They help you age like a total freaking badass, right? Instead of like this freaking like creaky curmudgeon, right? You walk taller, you resist falls better, you keep your metabolism humming, you can get up off the floor, and basically you set yourself up to keep doing the things that you love, right? Without your body giving you, giving up on you and just giving you the middle finger and saying, no, not today. So resistance training packs the fiber and the years. So how do you get all of, these life-saving legs, right? Well, they're literally the one surefire way to do it: resistance training, aka it's the muscle building, leg burning magic, right? A systematic review and meta-analysis, again, this is multiple studies stacked together, found that doing any amount of resistance training cut all-cause mortality by 15%, cardiovascular mortality by 19%, and cancer mortality by 14%, compared to doing zip, zilch, nada. But here's the sweet spot, right? About 60 minutes per week of lifting, body weight training, or, squats, whatever, delivered up to 27% drop in death risk. And I want you to think about this. 1 hour out of an entire week of intentional strength work, and you're literally lowering your odds of dying by more than a quarter. Like, your squat rack or the gym squat rack is literally, it's saying, please come over and we can carve out muscle, right? It's like, I want to help you buffer your lifespan. So there's like, it's like 168 hours in a week. So 1 hour a week of strength training out of 100, you have 167 hours left. So that whole, being able to find the time to do something, you can break that 1 hour. It doesn't have to be all at one time. You can take that hour and make it 4 15-minute spots throughout the week. Maybe you do it Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, 15 minutes on Monday, 15 minutes on Tuesday, 15 minutes on Thursday, 15 minutes on Friday. Or it could be, you could do Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, 15-minute increments to equal an hour of, there's honestly, when you think about it that way, there's no excuse really on it, unless you were physically like, you cannot in that moment. So why our thighs, right? What are they doing that belly fat isn't? Because we hear a lot about belly fat, cortisol belly, like all of those things. But I want to talk about body real estate for a second. Okay. So not all fat is the same, and where you carry it makes a great, huge difference. So a pear shape is, there's more mass around the hips, thighs, and butt, right? It's just, isn't just curvier. And it's been shown to actually be protective. A massive UK biobank study looked at over 21,000 premenopausal women, and it found that an extra 5 kilos of fat around the hips and thighs made their hearts behave like they were up to 2.4 years younger. Now, on the flip side of that, the classic apple, there's more belly fat, actually aged the heart faster. And Harvard researchers explained why. So lower body fat doesn't stir up inflammation or pump our bad cholesterol the way that belly fat does. So instead, what it does is it acts like a storage safe for harmful fatty acids, and it improves insulin sensitivity, and it even releases helpful hormones like leptin and um, adiponectin, right? So those strong, solid thighs that you've been training, I think about the strong thighs I've been training for over 3 decades. They're not just aesthetics. They're like a low-key metabolic SWAT team, and it's quietly working in the background to keep your body running smoother and longer, right? So muscles versus aging, and this is beating sarcopenia, and it's a dynapenia, right? And here's the thing that very few people talk about is muscle loss is sneaky, and it hits the lower body first, right? It's like this silent assassin that has 2 names: sarcopenia, which is a loss of muscle mass, and dynapenia, which is a loss of muscle strength. So the bad news, if you don't fight back, like these start creeping in earlier than you think, and then suddenly, walking up the stairs feels like you're climbing Everest, or you can't do it, or the thighs being some of the biggest muscle groups in the body, like they're usually the first to go. So there is good news, is not doom and gloom. And I bring this to you because I want you to be aware, but I also want you to know that there are things that you can do now to be proactive, to start to take that and turn that around. So strong thighs, they're, like I said, they're your life insurance policy against frailty, falls, and the kind of old before your time aging, which we totally have in our capacity to choose and control, right? And it's because we all see it, we all want it to dodge aging, nobody wants it, but also we have to actively make the decisions and choices. Aging is a choice. It's not something that just, like, it's not to happen. It's something that happens if we don't actively make the choices to create a healthy, sustainable, long, viable, fucking epic life, right? So keeping them strong, and you also keep your independence. I was just talking about this with somebody today. I actually went to a gym. I just, it's nice to get out every once in a while. I love the Badger Den. It's freaking dope gym, like literally dopest gym. But sometimes it's nice to get out since everything I do is at home. And I was talking about this today with somebody about, we were talking about health, and I'm 52, and this gentleman, he was a little bit older than me, and we got in this conversation, and we were talking about how, people don't really think health equals freedom and independence, right? And, it's your balance, and it's your freedom to live life without limits. And, thigh muscles aren't vanity, right? And, I used to, years and years ago in school and stuff like that, and even like into adulthood for a period of time, I would be offended when people would like make comments about, oh, the size of your thighs, and oh my God, look at your quads, and like things like that. No wonder your thighs are so big. And now it's like, fuck yeah. Like, while you're over there with your freaking little toothpicks, and I'm here and I'm like Quadzilla, and like my lower body is fucking stacked and I am healthy. Like, okay, let's talk about that now. Let's talk about longevity and who's going to be able to do the things, and who's going through aging in a way that is, not status quo, right? So it's like just loving my thighs, right? And but it's seeing them also as survival gear that you wear every day. They're your wheels. You think about a car, and a car has its wheels. Your legs, they're the wheels of your body, your body, right? They're what carry you around. So let's talk about the thick thigh blueprint and how to build the leg armor. Because I want to give you some Badger drops just so you can, if you are a midlife athlete who is, continuing to lift, or if you're midlife, somebody who's getting into it or whatever, just here's some things like to get practical, right? How do you actually build and then keep this leg armor? And again, this is based off of, things that I do. So lift heavy ish often, right? So for me, I'm like, sometimes I'll do percentages. A lot of things I do now are RPE and RIR, rate of perceived exertion, or reps in reserve, right? So it'd be squats, deadlifts, lunges, Bulgarian split squats. These are just some examples of movements that light up your thighs like nothing else, right? I do, leg extensions, knee extensions, whatever. You don't have to go powerlifting heavy every session, but you do need to use enough weight that is going to challenge your muscles to grow. Progressive overload, right? Commit to at least 60 minutes a week. I talked about this early. This is, where the research says you start to reap the biggest longevity benefits. And you can split it up into 2 or 3 or, 4 shorter sessions, and it still counts. 1 hour a week. You go to 168 hours in a week. 1 hour. You have 167 hours left, and you are doing something good for your body, and you're increasing your longevity. You are creating independence and freedom, right? Track strength, not just size. So thigh circumference is cool, right? I forget what mine are. I measured them. It's been a little bit to think back now. 27 and 3/4, something like that. 26 and 3/4, 20, up the low. I have it written down. Anyway, but things like knee extension strength or even grip strength that I talked about earlier, they are reliable predictors of long-term survival. So love your leg mass. And this is something that I've really come into with is muscle is protective, but so is healthy lower body fat. And if your body stores a little extra around the thighs and the hips, it's not automatically a bad thing. And it might be part of your metabolic advantage, right? Fight sarcopenia before it starts. So the earlier that you can start resistance training, the more muscle that you're going to bank for later, right? You are depositing into that muscle bank, and you're going to have a bigger escrow, a bigger savings over time, right? So think of it like the retirement fund for your body, if you will. Invest early, withdraw benefits for decades, right? So something else is, when you lace up for whatever's your glute focus workout, or, you're doing squats today, or you're doing whatever, maybe it's glute hams and calves, or it's quads, glutes and calves, whatever, that you're not just chasing aesthetics, you are stockpiling longevity and sustainability, right? 1 rep at a time. So I want to tie all of this together in this perfect little Badger gritty glitter bow, right? So thick thighs, muscle, fat, or both are linked to lower mortality, especially from heart disease. Now, I will err on the side of more muscle than fat. More muscle, fat. Just, you don't want to be like a marbled steak. That is not good. I had actually talked about that. Gosh, I can't remember what episode it was. I talked about fatty muscle. Too much marbling in your muscle is not a good thing, right? So you want that, equilibrium. I'm more muscle, less fat, but not so depleted, right? Strong legs equals a longer life. So leg strength consistently, it predicts how well you'll age and how long you'll live. And that is striking to me when I had, started reading about this. And I think of, this is something that, you know, we need to be focusing on more in, the fitness world is aesthetics are okay. That's the bonus that comes along with it. We need to be looking at all of these things first and what it actually does for the quality of our life, right? Resistance training is a literal lifesaver. 15% lower mortality just by lifting, and 27% if you hit the sweet spot in time and intensity. So lower body fat distribution can be protective in slim moderation, right? Pear-shaped bodies may have a metabolic and a cardiovascular advantage. Muscle fights aging, keeping your thighs strong, and you keep your independence, you keep your freedom, your mobility, and your vitality. You keep your quality of life. So, as always, thank you for hanging out with me for this deep dive into why thick thighs are actually more than just a gym flex and that they do save lives, right? They are a legit longevity flex. And if this episode fired you up, here's what you can do next. Share it with someone who likes to geek out over science behind, anything, particularly strong legs, somebody who maybe doesn't squat and they need to hear this, right? Rate us on Spotify. The more 5-star reviews that I get, the more that this gets pushed out to people and the more that we can reach people and really help them like start to live their most epic, dynamic, effervescent, strong, juicy life, right? It helps spread the word and it keeps the Badger magic rolling. And also drop a comment. You can leave a comment right in Spotify when you go down. You scroll down into the show notes. Over on YouTube, share, follow, like, and leave me a comment. Seriously, feedback helps me help you better, right? And of course, you can always hop over to grittyglitterbadger.com. You'll find blog posts. You'll see a shop where I have merch and all of my fitness programs in the Gritty Glitter Badger fitness app for purchase. They're easy links to click on. And also subscribe to my weekly newsletter. It's free stuff each week. I talk about all kinds of epic, cool things. So stay strong, stay gritty, and keep those thighs doing what they do best, carrying you through a long, bold, beautiful, vibrant, healthy life.